What is up, guys? It's Rumble Rants back breaking down UFC fights once again. I'm back from Hawaii. I'm wearing my Hawaii shirt actually, but I'm here. So looking forward to breaking down UFC Vegas 106. For everyone who doesn't know, make sure you follow me on X, Instagram, and obviously you're here on YouTube. But for today's video, breaking down UFC 106, my goal is to try and break down fights in about a minute, minute and a half. Last time I went long. This time I'm going to work on breaking things down a little quicker. I'm going to do a lot of first looks on some fights that I haven't gotten into too far onto research. On the other hand of things, I am going to give you some angles like from betting on each fight as well, things outside of picking fights. I like to look at things in more of a betting perspective and not just pick winners. There's plenty of guys here on this space who do it. Just pick winners. That's not what I'm here for. So let's dive in. Perfect. So the first fight of the night, kicking off the card, is Luana Pinheiro taking on Tisha Pennington, formerly known as Tisha Torres. This is a good fight actually to kick off the main card. Looking forward to this one. Tisha Pennington comes in at, right here it says minus 400, but she's down to minus 340, and I do get why the line is coming down. That line struck off DraftKings right before I started filming. Both of these girls fight pretty close. I do think Tisha Pennington's probably the better all-around fighter, maybe better everywhere, but she does fight so passive and close that I can't lay that amount of chalk on her. Pinheiro picked up some big wins early in her career. Now is on, I believe, a 2 or 3 fight skid. Take a look. Yeah, 3 fight skid. She lost to Amanda Ribas, Angela Hill, and Julian Robertson. No harm in losing to those girls. So I do expect this one to fight close. So one bet I do like in this fight, not sure if I'm going to be betting it myself, but it's one I have wrote down, is Pennington Pinheiro to go to a split or majority decision at plus 300. I think this fight's going to play out close, guys. I think Pennington, if it almost has to be dog or pass based on the odds, but I do think Pennington wins, so I'm not going to be playing a side in this fight. But if I do play it, may go with that split decision bet. Nothing I love in this fight, though. On the next fight, we got Hun Sung Park taking on Carlos Hernandez. This is another interesting fight. Hun Sung Park hasn't fought in about a year and a half since he beat Shannon Ross. I couldn't think of his name. Since he beat Shannon Ross back in December of 2023. Undefeated prospect out of Korea, taking on Carlos Hernandez, who fights very close every time. I feel like he's always fighting Asian fighters. Don't know what he has against Asian fighters, what the UFC's matchmaking is doing there, but that just seems to be his matchmaking. This is an interesting fight because I don't think Hung Sung Park has fought nearly the level of competition that Carlos Hernandez has. But at the same time, I do think he is more dynamic as far as like explosive, made more power. And Carlos Hernandez kind of lacks that physicality to ever be like a top 15, top 20 guy, but he is very well-rounded. He's good everywhere. I feel like Carlos Hernandez would be a killer on the regional scene. Just really good techniques, but just lacks the physicality, decently well-rounded. I feel like this fight's also going to play out close. But in this one, I do lean Carlos Hernandez more than I leaned Luana Pinheiro. So Carlos Hernandez at plus 160. I feel like it's a dog or pass fight. He also always fights close. Not sure if I'm going to pull the trigger on this one either. This card is not beautiful from a betting perspective. A lot of big favorites that shouldn't be big favorites. So that's hopefully I can get through this video a little quicker than I did last or 2 weeks ago because I was in Hawaii breaking on that card. So on to the next fight. We got Denise Gomes taking on Elise Reed. Denise Gomes, man, she can crack. Ton of power. We saw what she did to Uruguay back at UFC Noche. Was that UFC Noche? No, that was UFC 290. I'm thinking Yuri also finished there, but yeah, she did beat Yasmin Uruguay in 20 seconds. Don't I got those fights mixed up. But yeah, ton of power. She's a good fighter. I feel like the key thing here against Elise Reed is that Denise Gomes has that power and physicality where Denise Reed may have an advantage when it comes to like technical grappling, maybe a little bit more volume, but Denise Gomes' physicality is going to prevent Reed from taking her down, and she lands a bigger, harder shots. We've seen Elise Reed struggle at times with Sam Hughes and Lupita Godinez. Although Godinez is a completely different fighter than Gomes, I do think she's going to struggle with the physicality here. I know that Denise Gomes is currently lined at minus 625. It's even grown from the minus 300 you see, or minus 500 you see here. I still like Denise Gomes. I'm not sure if I'm going to bet her because the line is so chalked, but I think she's safer than some of the other big favorites you'll see later on down the card. Another bet for this fight I do like is Gomes and Reed under 2.5 at plus 140. I think Gomes might be able to get Reed out of there. We'll see if I pull the trigger on that as well when I post my card on X on Friday. Next fight. This is one I'm really looking forward to, actually. Luana Santos taking on Tinyara Lisboa. So this is a fight I keep going back and forth on. There's a few reasons why. So the reasons I started off originally liking Luana Santos' side was, if you notice, there's a 9-year age difference. At 25 years old, Santos is making rapid improvements. She's also fought, in my opinion, the better level of competition so far. Although it's not elite competition, I think she's fought better fighters in the UFC than Lisboa has. Although Lisboa does have, it's not like she's fighting cans on the regional scene either. She's picked up some decent wins. But the 9 years age difference, Santos is going to be improving rapidly. Lisboa is coming off a knee injury. So that's why I was leaning Santos. But then when I went into film, I was actually shocked at how much I started liking Lisboa. I think off past matchups, I think Lisboa is actually maybe better everywhere, which is surprising to say. And I know when you say things like that, better everywhere, it makes you want to pull the trigger on her. But I'm very skeptical because off the knee injury, I don't know how much she's been training. A lot of money's coming in on Santos. It originally opened up at almost a pick'em. And now Santos is near minus 166 on DraftKings. With the 9-year age difference, we see a lot of these Brazilian females around this age come in and look completely different than they did in the previous fight. This is one I keep going back and forth on. Whether I trust film or do I trust the 9-year age difference and the basic statistics in the UFC that get you, they say fighters of that age difference win about 67-70% of the time. The younger fighter wins. Although Lisboa is not necessarily old at 34, it's usually more applying to like 31-year-olds fighting 38, 39-year-olds. But yeah, this one I'm going to come back on. Keep going back and forth. Gun to my head right now, I'm leaning Santos. So no bet for me right now, but I may have something tomorrow. I keep going back and forth. Honestly, we'll see. A little more work to do. On the next fight, we got Conor Matthews taking on Yadir Del Valle. Del Valle really impressed me on the Contender Series, man. He puts a pace on on his fights, man. He's constantly going. I know he didn't get a finish. He's not necessarily a power puncher, but he has a lot of volume. And I think Conor Matthews, he may be able to get Conor Matthews out of there. Deval is minus 520. I don't know if I want to parlay him. It is his UFC debut. I don't think Conor Matthews is one of those guys who's going to, if he does pull the upset, it's going to start flying up the rankings. He's already 32. His losses, I don't think, are going to age very well. And both his losses are by getting finished. So I don't want to say dog or pass, although odds are minus 520 on Deval. I think Deval wins, but I'm not rushing out to parlay him at minus 520. Yeah, one bet I do sort of like is the under 2.5 at even money. It's actually at minus 110. I do think Deval, although he didn't finish like a Tender Series, with Matthews coming off getting finished twice in a row, I do think Matthews may be trying to fight aggressively off a 2-fight skid, trying to prove he deserves another UFC contract. And when sometimes they come out that aggressive, it can cost you, especially with the pace Deval puts on fighters. So I am leaning the under 2.5 there as well. Generally, if I see a fighter where they're minus 500 and the under 2.5 is plus money or a pick'em, you either A, have to see value on the underdog, because if the underdog makes the scorecards, the underdog made it there for a reason. Or B, you kind of have to see value on the under, because fighters that are that big of a favorite should have a path to victory inside the distance. But yeah, I do like the under 2.5. Not sure if I'll be betting it. Like I said, I'll put my card out tomorrow, but that's one I'm starting to like more and more. On to the next fight, we got Jared Gordon taking on Thiago Moises. This is an interesting fight as well. It's right around the pick'em territory. Both fighters near even money. Jared Gordon they both have fought great level of competition. Let me pull up their wins or their matchups in the past. Jared Gordon, everyone remembers the robbery against Paddy Pimblett, the head clash against King Green. Did beat Mark Madsen. Nazareth hack press was a super close fight. I bet Nazareth in that fight, and I was shocked how well Jared Gordon stood in there. And then Thiago Moises, classic jiu-jitsu player, great grappling. He did fight and make it to round 4 against Islam Makhachev back years ago. Interesting fight here. I am leaning Jared Gordon. A few reasons why. I think Gordon's going to be the one winning the minutes. I do think Moises is comfortable being on his back, and if Jared Gordon does land a takedown, I think Moises will be fine off his back. And a lot of times when jiu-jitsu players are on their back in guard, they're losing the round. I do think Gordon, it's a solid match for Gordon. Neither guy can really cracks too hard. Both more volume punchers. I do like Jared Gordon minus 125, I think he is right now on DraftKings. Another bet I really like is Gordon decisions only. I do think if there is a finish, I do lean it being Thiago Moises, maybe by sub. Maybe off his back he gets Gordon, or if he maybe drops Gordon and gets a sub. So Thiago Moises by sub, I also don't mind. But Gordon decisions only at minus 180. I know you're paying a little bit of chalk there, but if it does go to the scorecards, Thiago Moises doesn't win minutes very often in these kind of fights. And Gordon's one of those guys that has good cardio, always pushes forward. Should be winning the minutes in this matchup. I do like Gordon decisions only. On to the next fight. We got Matthias Camillo making his UFC debut against Gabe Green. It is wild. Gabe Green was like plus 150 against Ian Machado Gary a few years ago. And that's back when I was not high on Ian Gary, and I almost thought I saw value in Gabe Green. So wild how things change. Interesting fight here. Matthias Camillo is making a lot of progress. He's only 24 years old, getting better. The 8-year age difference is another thing I'd like to point out here. I do like Camillo in this fight. Not sure I'm going to pull the trigger on him, but I do think he should get the job done. He's up to minus 230 on DraftKings. He may be a parlayable piece for me. We'll see. Not overly confident. Don't have a giant read on this one. Still some more work to do. I want to go back and watch a few more of Camilo's regional scene fights. I haven't watched all of his stuff, just his last fight, but he looked good. More work to do. But for me, at least right now, more work to do. Camilo or pass, but take that for a grain of salt at this point. On to the next fight, we got Julian Erosa taking on Melquiz Costa. I've been a big fan of Costa. I feel like I'm on Melky Costa almost all of his matchups. I feel like he's always undervalued in the marketplace. I was on him against C-Rod. He won as a big dog. I was on him against Philly. He won at Pick'em. I was on him against Near Becky. He won. I think I was on him against Steve Garcia, and he lost. I was on him against Lingo. He's one of those guys I just constantly get to the window on. I feel like he's a pretty good, well-rounded fighter. His takedown defense does leave a lot to be desired, though. And Julian Rosa does have good wrestling. The thing is with the Rosa is he never fights to a game plan, it feels like. And the other thing is with the Rosa is he gets rocked, dropped, or wobbled, it feels like, every fight, man. At 35 now, he hasn't got finished in a while, but he used to, especially if you look back to the Fernando Padilla fight, Alex Caceres knocked him out, Sung Ho Choi. He used to be one of those guys where it felt like every time he got in a fight, he got rocked, he was out. His chin seems to be improving over the last few matchups, but it's hard to trust Juicy J when he's a favorite. But here's an underdog. So I do still lean Costa, but I'm not nearly as confident as I thought I was going into it. I thought Costa had better takedown defense off memory. He's at minus 180 now. I still think he should get the job done. Other bet I like is the under 2.5. It wouldn't shock me if Erosa somehow found a finish as far as like a sub. And Costa's live for a sub himself as well as live for a knockout, seeing how Erosa's chin is. So the under 2.5 is minus 160. Wish it was less juice, but we'll see. On to the next fight. So that was actually the first fight of the main card. Forgot to announce that. But on the next fight, we got Nursultan Ozubayev taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. This is an interesting fight too because Nursultan has about almost 50 fights, 46 fights, and a lot of them are against cans. When he came to the UFC, I remember thinking this guy's a fraud, and he sort of did get fraud checked his last time against Joaquin Buckley, but I don't know. Oh, that's 2 fights ago. It's Joaquin Buckley, but I don't know if Stoltzfus is the guy to do that. Stoltzfus does have good wrestling. He's good all around. I remember when he came into the Contender Series, he did have some hype behind him. And he's been hit or miss in the UFC. The Joe Pyfer fight, he had some hype going into that fight. He was a favorite against Joe Pyfer, and see how that's aged. but since then he's picked up some losses. He feels like he's very flaky. And I don't mean flaky as in he quits, because I wouldn't say that's the right way of putting it, but he seems to make a crucial mistake almost every fight he's in. Like when he has a grappling edge, he's one of those guys that just keeps his chin up and goes to war and is willing to bet on his chin against someone else's chin. When he has the striking advantage, he tries to grapple. He seems like fight game plan, and he doesn't have a great chin. He's not great defensively. He does have the wrestling edge on Nurul Sultan, but I don't think he's going to have the physicality to hold Nurul Sultan down. Nurul Sultan always big. His takedown defense isn't good. I do expect him to be able to, if he does get taken down, work his way back up, and just have the physicality edge here, where I do think that he should get the job done. I know that's weird saying that, where he has a major disadvantage in the grappling and the wrestling side of things, and still think he's a decent favorite. But I do lean Nurul Sultan Rozabayev here at minus 305. The over-under is at 1.5. I would have liked it if it was at 2.5. I would have liked the under. 1.5 gets scary, especially these kind of fights where I won't say Dustin is super chinny, but he does seem to get rocked and finished quite a bit. And I do think the most likely outcome is Rozabayev finishing him, but I don't know if it's going to happen under 7.5 minutes. It also wouldn't shock me if Dustin somehow found a sub. Nurul Sultan's not good on the ground. At the same time, I do think the most likely outcome is him being more physical than Dustin, keeping it standing, and finding the finish. The next fight, we got Sodiq Yusuff taking on Marion Santos. Marion Santos won the Ultimate Fighter. Everyone remembers his last outing against Francis Marshall. Let's be honest, I live bet Marshall. I thought Marshall won. I think he won rounds 1 and 2, lost round 3, but Santos still should have lost that fight. Judges gave it to Santos. I was shocked. But I think there's some people forgetting how talented he looked on the Ultimate Fighter. He does fight close, but he is a counter striker. In that Francis Marshall fight, he was minus 280. Francis Marshall looked much improved that fight too. Francis Marshall's a young guy making those rapid improvements. But the thing here at this match against Sodiq Yusuff, it is a step up in competition. I do think Sodiq Yusuff is much better than anyone he's fought, but I do think Francis Marshall is very underrated at this point. The second thing I want to point out is Sodiq Yusuff is on a little bit of a losing streak, and I do think there's some reasons for that. He's lost his last 2, but Don Chanis should never been in an octagon with Sodiq Yusuff. He was like minus 1,000. Against Alex Caceres, he's much more well-rounded than Caceres. He was a big favorite in that fight, and he lost to Arnold Allen. I don't think Sodiq Yusuff's abilities are falling off. I think his body's starting to fail him. We've heard things about Yusuff having a tough battle with COVID, and since then his cardio hasn't quite looked the same. We've seen him this week even, and it's been a long-term thing. He's been out for quite some time, from 22 to 23, talking about how he's out for a back injury, spine problems. So he's mentioned that even this week in the press conference, pre-fight press conference, mentioned that he's just trying to get healthy, live a normal life, and worry about his back and spine. Those are never good things to hear, you know. When fighters start having problems with their back, spine, they're not going to want to shoot takedowns. They're not going to defend takedowns. I don't expect this fight to go to the ground because I think both guys are more strikers anyway. But when you have that much issues, how hard can you possibly train during training camp? That's one thing. The cardio hasn't looked the same since COVID. Also, he's landing the Disney roles where he's doing more voice acting, which is great for him. Any fighter that can make a life outside of fighting, more power to him. I love Sodiq Yusuff as a person. He's very funny. His Twitter videos are great. He's one of my favorite fighters, but I do lean Marion Santos this fight. Yusuff seems to get rocked, dropped, wobbled. Feels like every fight. He hasn't had too many knockout losses, but he does get rocked quite a bit. And as you get older with all those body breaking down issues, I do think Santos is the more likely fighter to get done here. I think A, he throws more volume, and B, he has more power, and Yusuff is a little bit more chinny. So I am going to be betting Marion Santos. That's the first for sure bet I'm going to be having on Friday. A little more work to do. I want to position my card. Don't know how many units I'm going to go on it yet. This card's very weird, guys. If you notice, I've had a lot of passes, a lot of dogger pass, a lot of favorite or pass, but don't love the value on it. Weird card. But I do like Marion Santos. One last bet like this fight is Santos finishes only at minus 145. Yusuff can crack, but I think if there is going to be a finish in this fight, I do think it's going to be Santos. So just paying a little bit more juice than the minus 130 to 135 to make it minus 145 on finishes only. I do like that as well. Probably playing both of those. On to the co-main event of the evening. This 12 fight card, I'm trying to fly through it. Hopefully, I'm keeping it under. We'll see when I'm at after this video, but I'm trying to keep it around 20 minutes for these breakdown videos. We got Paul Craig taking on Rodolfo Bellato. So this is a fight where I see a ton of value on Paul Craig. I've never thought I'd say that. I've never liked betting Paul Craig. He's truly the definition of a one-trick pony. He is pretty much sub or bust. He's now older at 37 years old. I hate betting Paul Craig. I can't believe I'm saying this, guys. But I don't think Rodolfo Bellato should be minus 500 territory against anyone. Anyone in this division that's in the UFC shouldn't be minus 500 against. Don't get me wrong, Paul Craig has his flaws. He's not a good striker. He doesn't have very good wrestling. He's just a good jiu-jitsu player. But at the same time, we've seen Rodolfo Bellato gas out against Jimmy Crute and then pull Crute on top of him. If Paul Craig gets on top of you, that fight's probably finished. He'll find a sub or he'll ground and pound you out. Also, Paul Craig has fought the much higher level of competition. Just look at this Tapology page and his actual UFC fights and tell me the last time he's fought a guy who was less skilled than Rodolfo Bellato. Bo Nickel's better, Barala's better, Brandon Allen's better, Muniz is better, Johnny Walker's better, Ozdemir's better, Krylov's better, Jamal Hill's better, Shotgun Rua. At that point, Shogun was shot, so maybe. But you get the point. This is Paul Craig's easiest matchup in at least 3 or 4 years. Rodolfo Bellato, I think, is one of those guys where he comes in. A lot of times we see these power-punching Brazilians on the Contender Series, and everyone just falls in love and thinks they're knockout artists. And I think that's what people think Rodolfo Bellato is, but he's not that guy. I know he's finished Ihor Pretoria. I don't think Pretoria is very good. Crute, he wasn't able to get out of there. Granted, a lot of these are finishes, but a lot of them are subs, and I can't see him subbing Paul Craig unless he drops him first. I don't think Bellato's that good to be minus 500 favorite. And granted, don't get me wrong, the most likely outcome is Bellato to win. He's minus 500 for a reason. It's not like I'm telling you anything you didn't know. It's hard to say a plus 380 bet is going to be a lock on Paul Craig. That's why it's probably be a small bet for me if I do decide to bet it. I just hate betting on jiu-jitsu players who don't have a way to get to the ground. If he can't get the fight to the ground, jiu-jitsu isn't very helpful, is it? When he's getting his face boxed off. At the same time, Bellato's pulled guys in guard. It's a weird fight, man. It's definitely 100% dog or pass. Another side bet I am leaning towards is Craig Bellato over 1.5. I don't think Bellato's as dangerous as people think, and Craig's been there with more dangerous guys in the past. So hopefully he can make it 7.5 minutes. So the over 1.5 I like. Paul Craig at plus 380. I think that's one of my favorite underdogs on the card. On to the main event. We got Michael Morales taking on Gilbert Durinho Burns. Great matchup here. I've been very high on Michael Morales for a long time now. Only 25 years old from Ecuador. He showed out in the Contender Series. I had him at big dog money on the Contender Series and hasn't lost since. He beat a Russian on the Contender Series. Yep, plus 190. Since then, finished Trevin Giles, Adam Fugit, beat Max Griffin, Jake Matthews, and Neil Magny. But the one thing I want to say here is this. I feel like this is like a not-so-fast type of fight. Michael Morales is minus 850. He's minus 850 for a reason. He's the rightful favorite. He is most likely to win this fight. He's got a massive age difference here. He's 13 years younger than Burns. He's got a massive reach advantage with 8 inches of reach. He has a lot of things going his way. But the one thing is he's never really fought someone who has the physicality to wrestle. But more than that, he's never faced someone with the jiu-jitsu that Gilbert Burns has. Trevor Giles, striker. Fugit, he wasn't even really a threat to Morales. Max Griffin, more of a striker. Jake Matthews, more of a striker. Neil Magny does have some wrestling, but he was just outgunned in that fight. He was also like 40 years old. This is a big step up for Michael Morales. Gilbert Burns has been there with the best in the world. He was winning. Don't forget, he won rounds 1 and 2 against Jack Della Maddalena, who's now the current champion. I know Sean Brady made it look a little easier, but that was just about a year, maybe 14 months ago against Jack Della. Against Jack Della, he was plus 135. In this fight, he's like plus 500. Against Sean Brady, he's plus 160. Against Mike Morales, he's plus 500. I don't know, guys. I don't get me wrong. I think Michael Morales wins. I think he's a rightful favorite. He has the age, speed, strength, reach, speed, striking. He has a lot of things going his way this fight, and there's a reason he's minus 850. The problem is we don't know much about his grappling. We don't know much about his submission defense. It has to be dog or pass. But at the same time, I'm not rushing out to bet Gilbert Burns. Reasons being, I do think Morales wins. I've been high on Michael Morales. I'm not about to get off the hype train. I doubt I parlay him. Like I said, it is probably a dog or pass fight by using all the matrix of betting fights. I just think Morales wins. I'm way more excited about Craig than I am about Gilbert Burns, if that makes sense, on the two dog fights in the co-main and the main. Simply because I think Morales is a lot better than Bellato. Yeah. One other bet I do like in this fight is on DraftKings. They offer a submissions only bet. I don't see it on many other books. Let me know what other books may have it. But on DraftKings, Gilbert Burns submissions only is minus 125. Michael Morales, he's for sure has never gotten a sub in the UFC. Let's pull this up, see when his last actual submission was. Okay, so back in 2019, he got a triangle choke on a guy who was 0-0. Yep, no submissions in the UFC. He's taking on Gilbert Durinho Burns, who is known for submissions. Arm triangle against Neil Magny. He's a jiu-jitsu player by trade. I know he doesn't have as many subs as a thought in here, but that's kind of his style is submissions. So at minus 125, if there is a submission, I think it's Gilbert Durinho Burns. So submissions only. What that means is if anyone knocks out anyone, the bet's void. If the fight gets stopped by an eye poke, the bet's void. If it goes to decision, the bet's void. So Morales sleeps Burns, you get your money back. It's just a push. But if the fight is going to have a submission, I do think it's Gilbert Burns. I do think at minus 125, there's a ton of value there, and that will be a bet I place. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Look forward for me posting my content on my Twitter account right here at RoboRants on X. I'm going to be posting my official betting card there. I'm hoping to get an official graphic for it as well tomorrow on Instagram. Thank you so much for all your support. Please like, share, subscribe. Once again, see you all tomorrow with my betting card, and feel free to tail. Let's crush it.